Welcome on inside yet another edition of the Business of Social podcast powered by STN Digital. I'm your host, David Brickley. Each and every show, we talk to the experts and get their advice on the ever-changing digital social marketing landscape. This show is no different. Producer Will, episode number 74. After the highly coveted Dennis Rodman number 73 episode.
I think the David Furker episode was 71.
I wonder if people, when they listen to, random episodes, like, did they interview Dennis Rodman on 73? Like, no.
I think some people are pretty excited to see who the actual person we pick is.
Yeah.
Anyway, 74, strong year. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, we're going ages, not
Oh, yeah. We're back to ages.
Wait until what, 80s, the receivers?
Yeah, okay. I think as we get closer to football, we'll go back. That'll work out nice.
Ages.
All right. Schwarzenegger, the governor, Elton John, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the captain, Steven Spielberg.
Wow, this is a...
Yeah. O.J. Simpson, Eugene Levy, Susan Sarandon, Tommy Lee Jones, Glenn Close, Sally Field.
Men in Black.
Brian May of Queen, and then, and Larry David.
Wow. This is tough. Are we on video, by the way? We video, yes. Audio? Okay,
yes.
Cool. Wow. You know what? This is going to be the pretty good podcast, Larry David podcast. All right, so let's get into it. We're going to be talking to the Director of Global Brand and Communication for Peloton Commercial, Skip Wilson. Formerly of Precor, Will. They just got acquired for, a cool $420 million in cash back in April, I think. That deal just went through. So Skip making the way from Precor now to Peloton and becoming the global brand director. So I'm excited to get into them. Peloton has been such a fascinating brand. I know you and I have talked about it a lot on this show and during COVID and quarantine and all that stuff. So it'd be fun to talk shop. Here we go. Episode number 74. He is the Director of Global Brand and Communication for Peloton Commercial. Skip Wilson joins us on the Business of Social podcast. Skip, what's going on, man? Thanks very much for the time.
Hey, thanks for having me. Always glad to be in front of the camera and not in front of an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, there you go. You and me both. All right, so I know there's been some changes. You were originally at Precor. Peloton acquired Precor recently, but why don't you just walk the listeners a little bit of your day-to-day and what you oversee?
Yeah, so I'll start with the Precor side. So Precor, as an organization, started more than 40 years ago as an organization of people who were passionate about bringing fitness experiences that help people live the lives that they desire. And so we've had success over the past 40 years in more than 100 countries, activating really awesome fitness experiences in your gyms or your health clubs and even into your home. And so Peloton was looking really to kind of expand into the commercial market and also kind of launch a foundation for its US-based manufacturing, which Precor already had. And so our missions are really aligned really well with what we aim to do. And so there was a natural partnership that took place. And we actually finalized the purchase of Precor to Peloton in April, I believe. And so we're working through integration right now. What that means is basically because we are cultures, each organization's cultures, which now one organization are so aligned, there's a natural fit that makes that process of integrating much easier. But how it affects my daily life is it's kind of like we're dating, right? We're seeing how we vibe, we're seeing how we collaborate, how we work, and then how we bring something really special, authentic, and I'll say badass to the marketplace. Yep. And that is kind of the energy that we want to move forward. So it's a lot of figuring out how we work and what we work on.
I love it. And then for Precor, what was your percentage between commercial and home fitness prior to acquisition, would you say?
I would say prior to the acquisition and really prior to COVID, because that's since changed, right?
Yep.
We're probably about 90% into the commercial fitness industry and 10%. And that obviously the home line has just taken off with, changes in consumer behavior.
Yep. And I would assume, I know Peloton mostly in home fitness, so it makes sense, the merger, right, for them to kind of jump into the commercial space. I want to get into, just overall some of your thoughts, being in the game for as long as you have. How do you approach marketing? I mean, what's really your core belief, regardless of Precor and Peloton? Just how do you approach marketing?
It's funny. I got my roots in Nashville, Tennessee, in entertainment marketing at Country Music
Yep.
Television, and which is part of MTV Networks.
Hmm.
And so I really was focused on the entertainment value or producing, whether it's campaign work or product that people really connect to and enjoy. And that's kind of the thread that's flowed throughout wherever I've gone in my career. Is
Yep.
I first have to have a passion for what we're doing and what we're manufacturing. I can't just be making widgets, which is that B school term for
It's hard to sell if you don't believe in the product. I agree.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then I derive joy from seeing somebody actually use the thing that we produce
Hmm.
and that it helps their lives. And so that's the kind of thread that makes my job enjoyable, and then also makes the activations that my team and myself kind of create and bring to market. Is, do we care? Is it cool? Is it passionate? And will somebody use it? And
Yeah.
that's what I think the foundation of a successful marketer has to be.
And then I always love asking this question to marketers. How do you personally explain the difference between sales and marketing? Because I think a lot of professionals mix those two quite a bit.
I don't.
Yeah.
And I am trying to understand, I think there's different skill sets between whether you call yourself a marketer and whether you're out in the field selling
Hmm.
to customer relationships, but really there should be no difference between sales and marketing. As marketing, I definitely need to understand what it's like to be selling, and sellers need to understand what we're trying to market. They work hand in hand,
Yeah.
and there should be no difference other than maybe what you're doing 1 hour to the next.
Yeah, I agree. It's really that 360 approach. Like upper funnel marketing can be the marketers. Once you get into lower funnel, you can go more for the call to
Yeah.
action.
And I will say, I spent some time at Sony Electronics back in the day when they had Sony stores in malls, believe that. And part of my onboarding was actually spending 2 months in a store selling before I
Smart.
even got to a marketing function, right? And that's so I can understand the what materials we would be creating or what campaigns we would be activating would actually be useful to those who actually are on the
Yep.
floor selling. And I think that's a valuable lesson for all marketers and all salespeople, is to rotate around the organization as
Mm.
much as you can, whether that's finance, accounting, sales, ops, all of those, to get those experience so you have a really holistic understanding of how your work fits within that ecosystem.
Well, and what I often see is that feedback loop doesn't happen between sales and marketing, because you do your marketing, you have lower funnel, sales goes for, the sale, and they find different pain points and different feedback from that sales process that needs to go back up into marketing so their content can speak to their audience correctly.
Absolutely. And I would say
Yeah.
this is also a challenge for leadership, is to actually reach to the organization and
Yes.
request that feedback.
Mhm.
If it's not a formalized process, relationships become really important. So, I'm bringing a campaign, or the team is bringing a campaign to market soon, and we're having rounds and rounds of approval and feedback. But I'm saying the most important feedback is going to be coming from the last person to touch this before
Yes.
it gets it, right? And so we're looking to say, does this work for your purpose, your intended purposes? So, if there's not a formalized process for that feedback loop, whether that's before a campaign goes to market or after it comes to market to measure, is it successful? You've got to have those existing relationships around the organization that give you a gut check on
Yeah.
how you're performing.
Well, I always like to ask marketers, going back to March 2020, because every business went through the biggest stress test that you can possibly put a business through. And for you guys, 90% of your business being commercial, being gyms were completely shut down, considered really the super spreaders, if you will, even if that was true or not. But where did your mind go immediately? And how did you kind of take that and go forward as you were going through, hey, our main consumer is no longer needing our services as of right now?
I have to give a total 100% credit to the team that I'm fortunate to represent and work for, because really, when you're not able to go out and have those sales meetings or those trade shows or really sell because no one's buying,
Yeah.
how do you support the organization? And
Right.
marketing and digital were pretty much the teams that could activate. And so we blew up our marketing calendar and we focused on agility, really supporting our customer base, which are other businesses, through this transition. So how can we support the challenges that they're going through or make their lives easier so that when these customers do come back online, they have the resources, tools needed to get started. So we actually, did the research on behalf of our customers, hoping to keep them in business so we can stay in business,
Yes.
right? And that would be like, aligning the CDC guidelines for how to safely reopen when the time comes. What does the setup of a gym facility look like in a post-COVID world? What are marketing strategies that you can do to keep connection with that membership base? Are there digital pieces of content that we can offer, at low cost or free, to basically keep you in contact and keep you getting some revenue in the doors, so that when you're ready to be the purchase, you recognize that Precor, Peloton Commercial had been the partner that you really needed. And so that, from a functional standpoint, was very helpful. I will say COVID, while obviously terrible, forced us to look at our operations and how we're set up. And we needed more agility. So instead of thinking about quarterly projects, we thought about weekly projects.
Yeah.
What do we need to do on Monday, and what do we need to have done on Friday? And so that forced me as a manager of folks to get it together on Sunday night.
Yeah.
The top 3 things that we need to execute, ready to go on Monday, and then we just chug. And so those are things that I am looking to make sure we maintain.
Stay in place,
that speed, and honestly, that trust in the individuals that you've hired to do the job that they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in a good way, corporate America, like those 9 layers of approval just weren't possible anymore. So a lot of those things got slashed, and hopefully those maintain as we go forward.
Absolutely.
We'd love to get your thoughts on just home fitness overall. I mean, I think every human, if they didn't have home fitness equipment, now they're going to want it, or already have it, because just in case their gym shuts down, they have an opportunity. And that's why Peloton just really took off and was really the jewel, I guess, of that time period. So how did you see it? Just, I guess, as we move forward now, home fitness compared with the gym, like what's like the market look like in the next 5 years for you?
Yeah, I would say this is that home fitness has been around forever. Everybody's parents had like an exercise bike in the basement, right? Back in the day. And so it's not like, suddenly people are working out at home. It's just more prevalent. And what I think has changed is we now have wellness and well-being at the forefront of our minds as customers, where maybe we were going to save some money and buy that Mercedes-Benz or BMW or Louis Vuitton purse or whatever it is you might need. We are now prioritizing spend to reinforce activities that benefit our health and well-being. Yeah. So I think that is the shift that we're seeing. And so generally on the commercial side of the business, we think that more people being actively interested in their health and well-being will float all boats. And so the challenge that we have to do is to make sure that wherever, whether at home or in the facility or out for a hike, we have connection points to our customers. And that's how we think that we'll win.
What I've been fascinated with on the Peloton side is really they found a way to gamify working out. And I think just understanding the psychological effect of, my best friend just worked out yesterday, or, my best friend is a couple RPMs above me, I better push through my workout so I can beat him and have that, I guess, star of approval for the day. Talk me through what you think that has done for fitness and how that's just going to continue to evolve.
I think this is actually a very good question. We're obviously seeing a convergence of gaming, of technology, of fitness, and that's not just within the fitness industry, but we're seeing convergence all across many industries. Yes. And I think that's a benefit, is taking a look at how consumers and individuals use technology and use the hardware and equipment that you put out and how it fits within their lives. What I think the kind of leaderboard and gamification of fitness does is it, number one, holds people accountable, but it also helps them subscribe to a community at which they have members have a mission-based focus group, basically, to be a part of. Whether you're on your own at your house or whether it's a group within your neighborhood, you now are part of a community, and one that is authentic and subscribes to more than just fitness goals, but also what it says about you as being a larger human being and a steward of awesomeness that Peloton wants to propel into the marketplace. So I think it is more about being a part of this community that is actually the differentiator from Peloton to some of the competitors out there.
I find it interesting too, especially during COVID. I mean, 2 brands that really took off were TikTok and Peloton, and both of them really relying on music as well. We saw the deal with Beyonce. A lot of people called that what Nike did with Michael Jordan, Peloton's doing with Beyonce. Yeah. But how do you, from a marketing standpoint too, like leverage those type of relationships as you get into this new role as well? Because I think it's really interesting how those signings or those ambassadors can really help the brand overall, like do amazing things.
Absolutely. I would say first, the instructor community that Peloton has built is world-class, from people who have inspiring stories, who are in the professional fitness space, who are entertainers and dancers, but they're just really well-rounded, great people who people naturally gravitate to. The music selection is so critical in the experience, that when you don't have music that you recognize, when you have that stock music, when you have like these random songs you've never heard of.
We've all shown up to the gym, forgot our headphones, and we're like, this is not going to work. I don't know what I'm doing.
But essentially. And I am actually a cycling instructor, and I take time. I say the majority of time is programming the music. You're
a DJ now, work.
Because the music and the experience and the vibe that you input into those classes is so critical to a successful, happy experience. How you leave, whether it's Meek Mill or Megan Thee Stallion or Beyonce or Brooks and Dunn, whoever it might be, right? It's so critical to that member experience that it has to be there. And so as a marketer, I'm so glad that I'm a part of the community that's investing in those partnerships and those relationships to build that really world-class number one brand experience.
I'd love to get your thoughts on, and I geek out over the logistics, so pardon me, but with the merger now, you guys have two separate, like a B2B, B2C play. You have commercial, you have home fitness. In terms of content and branding, how do you do that? Will you have separate fees on each platform because you're talking to somewhat different audiences there? Do you find a way to mix all of it in within the overall like mothership brand of Peloton? How are you kind of attacking that with your new role?
Yeah, I think these are the conversations that we're having right now. Without giving too much away, I will say, we are having to revisit our business plan in the sense that we now are opening up our memberships to many more people through these many more doors that we now serve. And so we have to kind of be very skillful in representing the value that we're offering, but then making sure that the experience is definitely what you would expect when you get home, that you get the same level of care and membership experience that you would get at a hotel or a university or multi unit. I think that is kind of where the work has to go, so that wherever you are, the Peloton brand is intact, the experience is consistent, and that the member, the person who is actually on the bike or the tread, virtually knows no difference.
So for the bike and treadmill, I'm just wondering, like, is there a possibility to really connect the entire gym experience, right? Whether you're on the cables or you're on the Smith machine, you obviously maybe don't have instructors on each of those. But is there maybe thoughts around creating all those like tied together where you're kind of jumping from machine to machine, or there's different classes that are Peloton specific that allow you to kind of do that, that workout around multiple machines?
Yeah, you're so on point. I can tell you've been in the gym here. But yeah, I talked about convergence, but it really is not just limiting your fitness experience and also your data to one piece of equipment. It really is about whether you're on a walk or whether you're running outside or doing a hike. Like, we all have a fitness tracker, whether it's our phone or whether it's a watch or whatever, but we want to integrate that experience across all modalities and all points of life. And so it's figuring out the best way to do that and create an unbeatable experience is the work of Peloton. So I would say to your question, yes, we are actively working on that, but also Peloton already does have, coach runs or functional fitness classes that don't require necessarily you to be on some piece of hardware. And that's kind of also the value. So we've got to expand our thinking of what we think as fitness programming or wellness programming, or whether it's meditation, right? Sleep training, whatever that could be, flexibility training. There are different modalities that content supports that will help us kind of converge all the places in which we require wellness.
The fact that we have all this data now, I have a theory that's going to happen in the future where healthcare providers will tap into this data in order to give better rates as well. Like, I'm just going to throw that out there so it's on camera, so we can come back to it 5 years from now. But
I don't know how your benefits work, but I remember signing up for benefits and getting like a credit for not being a smoker, right? I think, like, there's already some premature model in place.
Yeah,
you be rewarding the fact that you do have an active fitness workout.
Yep. And then people will be selling their data to other people to try to fake it. It'll be just a whole black market of working out. As far as platforms, what platforms seem to be working the best for you right now when you talk about Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok? Any platforms that are really spiking for you all right now in the social space?
Yeah, I think when we talk about B2B relationships, it gets really tricky because primarily my segment of the business is focused not just on getting eyes, but really sales to the business. And where many of these platforms lose B2B customers is that, popularity doesn't translate to dollars. Always.
Yeah.
It's not provable.
Yep.
So targeting, proof, obviously metrics are key in my decision process for when and where we activate on social. And I do think that the people that figure out how doing a Megan Thee Stallion Savage Dance challenge can translate to success in the B2B sector will have a gold mine. I'm just not sold yet that every B2B brand needs to be actually in the social media space. I mean, or utility brand. I don't want to follow my power company or my cell phone service on social media. And so I do think you have to be very specific with what your goals are with social. So for me, I would say, because I'm interested in connecting with business decision makers, a platform like LinkedIn is going to be much more, at least in the near term, than TikTok for me.
And do you apply the same philosophy like that you did during COVID? Like, we want to provide our community on LinkedIn of gym owners or commercial decision makers of content and value driven content that can help that community. Therefore, they trust us when we kind of go for the sale later on too.
Exactly. And whether that reduces the potential audience, I think it's about qualified lead or follow relationship. And that's one thing is that, there's a bunch of content providers out there, but I would say, what are the strengths of the relationship between, the following and the actual content?
Yeah.
And my gut tells me I want to have a strong following, even though it might be a smaller list, but somebody that we've actually had a relationship or built rapport with, whether it's digital, whether it's .com, whether it's one-on-one sales meetings. We want that to be a relationship focused model and not just to be driven by trends that we see.
Yep. And then, quality over quantity, essentially. What's one thing that you wish you could do more of, whether it's telling original stories, or creating more content? Like, what's one thing at Precor previously and now going into Peloton that you wish you could do more of?
I joined Precor from some previous experience at some pretty flashy, well-known brands over there. Sony, I did a stint at MTV Networks. We talked about it. Worked at Guitar Center. So some household brand names, I had worked. And there's benefits and drawbacks to being a creative and a marketing leader within those organizations. Sometimes the machine can be too big, right? That you actually are paralyzed and that you don't really get to innovate as much as you want. And when you join a company like Precor that is a 40 plus year old organization is really looking to redefine and grow what it wants to be, and be a little bit more progressive, you get to have a lot more fun in terms of like positioning, strategy, trying creative concepts. And so that's my wheelhouse, is to take the best of legacy Precor, take that into Peloton Commercial and figure out how we grow this brand within this space and how that translates to what our customers feel about our brand. So I'm really looking to stretch who Precor has been into who Peloton Commercial will become. And I'm really excited by the number one, we work with some really smart people who have been at Peloton, right? The leadership team is the best I've ever worked with. And I'm not just saying that to keep my job. But some really smart folks. The amount of resources that are now at our disposal, just in terms of capital and investment, we are building a new manufacturing facility in Ohio and updating our facility in North Carolina. And so it's not just across marketing that we see that investment really impact our business, but it's across the whole organization. So I think when you're dealing with a high growth opportunity, a brand that has come in and become the number one brand in the world right now, and the dollars that they're able to contribute to what you actually do as a marketer or as a salesperson or as a manufacturing lead or as an engineer, you get to kind of expand your playground. And so I'm excited about pushing that.
It's interesting too, even for you as a marketer, because you go from, I would assume, Precor, where you're worried about the purchaser, the gym owner, the corporate type that's worried about ROI, how often does it break? Is it going to injure my people that come into my gym? Where I think with Peloton, it's really this, like you said, community. Oh, is that a Peloton bike? I want to ride on that bike opposed to this other bike by Life Fitness or something like that. So it'll be interesting too, because as everything turns into Peloton, will people walk into a gym and would they rather use a cable system by Peloton opposed to another brand? Because I think that brand affinity is so different. When in reality, I think when most people would walk into a gym, they didn't really care as much about what the brand was on the side.
Sure. I think the focus for me would be to break down the barriers between having this in-facility brand and this at-home brand.
Yeah.
It's all fitness. It's all wellness.
Right.
We're all one company, right? So it's Peloton in New York City, and it's Peloton here where I am in Seattle.
Yeah.
And we all support the end user, the member, the person doing the sweat, right? And so I think that's kind of where the industry has to get on board with. Consumers are changing what they require from health clubs and fitness facilities, and what supplier is best positioned to make sure that you remain competitive. And so by virtue that we have commercial operations and also at-home operations, and then also a digital team that everywhere in between, we're really well positioned to offer success.
Do you think too, I mean, I know you guys have done this with partnerships and different pop-ups, and I may have not come across my timeline, but does Peloton currently own like health clubs where everything in that facility is Peloton? Do you think that's like a future as well, where Peloton has 1,000 locations across the nation as well, where you can sync your home fitness with?
About that. Let me as a marketer, let me put the question back to you. Would you value that experience?
I think the brand is so healthy right now. It'd be interesting, like, the same way people join Orange Theory Fitness, do they now join Peloton Fitness as a class as well? And maybe you get those instructors too, kind of like, hey, I'm going to be in New York or I'm going to be in LA for 3 weeks of classes. Like,
I'm going to write that down.
Come here soon.
That's an opportunity. But I will say, in the before times, you could go and take a class in New York City, right? And you could go and be with Cody and talking all that smack, right?
Right.
So there is something that I value as actually a fitness instructor about a live experience. Yes. I don't know what that looks like, but I do think that could be an added value. Not sure what that execution would look like, but absolutely. I think we want to be where folks are inspired and where we can really connect with our membership.
I could see it now. Peloton acquires 24-Hour Fitness, and the rest is history. All right, so I got some.
I'm not saying that.
That is not an official statement. I know.
Thank you.
So some rapid fire questions as we kind of end the show here. What are some brands, accounts, creators that you follow across social, online that inspire you or kind of get you going?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I had to kind of think through like what's on my feed right now. And really, when I go through outside of my family and like people, from elementary school, right? I follow brands that have a personality first and foremost, brands that take risks, brands that are important to my life or add value. I talked about the power company and how I'm not really interested. I just want the lights to be on, and there's only a problem. I'm only tweeting you when the lights are on.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but if you give me a reason as a brand to laugh or to smile or to think deeply, I'll come back. So likely what I'm following most recently that I'm super into is music has been a large part of my life. So I follow NPR Music. They do a really good job of like putting some artists in my face that I either haven't heard of or haven't been able to see live. I love the Tiny Desk series. Like, I think that's just gold for like the actual true musicianship. I'm following, and it might be a cliche at this moment, but Dr. Brene Brown and we're daring greatly. I think in terms of blending what vulnerability and daring greatly actually means as a professional, but then also within your personal life, there's just some strong tidbits there that keep coming, like some strong lessons that we can take as managers or as partners or as fathers or sons into the world. And so I think those little tidbits that just pop up naturally because you're following someone, some are really important and impactful in my life. And then being the Star Trek nerd that I was in middle school, I follow NASA.
Nice.
I always want to explore what's out there.
Yeah, you touched on it just now, and I think it leads me to my next question. Is really this? It's a theme that we brought up throughout the podcast over the last couple of years, and I'm passionate about it as well. Is diversity, inclusion, and equity, and how maybe at Precor you saw that done. How you want to extend that in Peloton, just as a professional overall. Maybe some advice or thoughts you have for other leaders that can they can take away from that.
Yeah, and I have the pleasure of sitting here as a Black gay man here, and I've also had the experience of being the only Black gay man or Black man or person of color within an organization, within a leadership team. It's something that it's not weird for me. It's understood. I wish it were different, but it is what it is. And so I think there is a responsibility as I have advanced in my career, not only to teach and to train and to coach folks who are on my team that we have the power to do something different, but then also to reach out to my peers and colleagues and say, hey, we've got to put a plan in place, or we've got to recognize this. And I think what has happened over the last year, 2 years, particularly with the social justice environment in the United States, is many companies are looking for help in understanding how they can do better. And we at Precor launched, our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging group to figure out really how do we not necessarily promote what we're doing externally, but figure out how we impact our culture internally. And for me, that's a safer space to be, because I want to impact the environment that is directly around me, right? And I do have the capability and the trust and the confidence in my team that people want to make change. They're just not sure how to have that conversation. What does change look like? What is that hard conversation? Do we need to? What should we be doing differently? So we're taking a look at recruitment. We're taking a look at promotions. We're taking a look at where we source talent, whether that, if we always source talent from a particular school or particular network, we're really not going to be impacting our diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. And for me, I think it's important to understand that diversity is not just about skin tone, right? It can be difference of thought, difference of geography, difference of age, obviously shape, right? All of these other things that really impact how an organization functions and is represented to the world. And so in my domain, which I kind of control, we kind of have a nice test case, and we're pretty open about having these conversations of what it means to be inclusive, what we can do better, what's probably a longer term goal versus what we can do right now, and what is really required for change. What is essential that I've learned is you have to have leadership support. It can't just be lip service. And one of the things that we were talking about social is, we put out our diversity statement, and rightfully so. Customers will write back and be like, well, you put out this statement. Where's the proof?
What's the latest?
Show us your stats. Show us what has changed, right? And so that's one of the things that Peloton does really well. We've just recently reduced our price on our products and apps to make fitness more accessible to more people. So it's, fitness and well-being should not be a luxury good, right? That should be part of inclusion, right? And so there are all these things that we can do to help benefit our organization, but the communities that we serve, which I think I would like to become more natural. And I think just by having these conversations, whether you get tired of them or not, you do have to keep having them. So it becomes natural for the next crop of leaders.
And I think just as a human too, like as one example, to see like Rodney King and 30 years later, you see George Floyd, it's so frustrating because you want to enact change, but it seems like a lot of stuff isn't changing. But I really believe what you just said, focus on making your space safe first and foremost. And that's like, maybe it's only 11 people, but if you can make change, that's 11 more than it was before. And I think all of us leaders, if you can focus on, your house first, I think that just starts to multiply over time, because we all
absolutely, because when you think about diversity and changing a whole org of people, right? Or a whole community of people, or a world of people, it's daunting, it's paralyzing. But I would say do one thing that feels good, and the second thing is going to feel better.
Absolutely. All right, so a couple more rapid fire questions before we get out of here is I wanted to ask you about what's a book or a podcast or newsletter that you consume or enjoyed recently?
Well, I already mentioned Brene Brown, so I'm going to go back to the last book that I have, which is no, it's not Daring Greatly. It's Braving the Wilderness, and this specifically has to be with covers kind of like, I don't want to say feeling like otherness, but the effects of feeling like you are outside of otherness and what that can do to you. And also taps into, her signature studies on vulnerability and why you should be why you should be vulnerable, whether that's in your professional career or at home. There's just so much you can do with being vulnerable vulnerable, because that is the root of creativity, of honesty, of authenticity, of innovation.
100%.
You with really stepping outside of what others expect of you, and then maybe empowering you to expect more of yourself. The other book I have here.
There you go. Right on.
RBG workout book.
Very cool.
So, she loved fitness. And so I keep that when I need to be doing some exercises in my room.
That's great. What are some campaigns that you've worked on that really surprised you in terms of the effectiveness or the results of it? Or maybe you walked into it like, oh, it'll be a pretty cool campaign, but it really blew the socks off for you guys.
I'd say the campaign that I really, really enjoyed working on was when I was at Sony Electronics. And there's not many times when you actually get to introduce something really, really new.
Yeah.
In Sony, we had developed and released the world's first 4K television.
Nice.
So it's kind of like a new ultra high definition format. We didn't even know what to call it, right? Everybody's racing to figure out, what do we call this thing? Is it 4K? What are we going to, trying to name what a DVD is going to be like.
Yeah.
And nobody really knows, right? It just has a super long name and we didn't know. So introducing the market to like what at the time was the world's most high definition television, but then how we wrap that package in the sense that when you bring something to market that is that innovative, where what comes first, the chicken or the egg? There's not a lot of content that's available. Okay, but yet you're selling this literally $20,000 4K TV.
Right.
And how does that work? So we effectively were trying to push a very consumer-driven story by influencing business consumers. So when you shoot in 4K, how you do hair and makeup is very different. How you light is very different. Mm-hmm. How you style and do set design is very different. So we actually partnered with Taylor Swift to produce the world's first 4K music video.
Nice.
And the video is "We Are Never, Ever, Ever Getting Back Together." So that's a really great story for product and content coming together.
Yeah, that's great.
Really like the transcends a lot of what I do now today.
It goes back to our theme about music, man. You can't get away. All your whole career is all music related, I feel
it really is.
And then finally, you've had some amazing stops. You mentioned Sony, MTV Networks, Guitar Center, Precor, and now the Peloton merger. What's some advice for anyone trying to get in the industry, trying to become that global director one day?
Yeah, and this might be cliche as well, but I'm a marketer, so you're going to have to do it. I would say I was given this advice, and I don't even know who said it, but just because you wander, it doesn't mean you're lost, right? And I think there has been this linear concept of what career success looks like. And I don't think that particularly in this generation, that is necessarily a successful model. For me, I call myself an expert generalist, and I can only call myself an expert generalist because I have experiences in digital, in creative, in production, in sales, in e-com. And so that has allowed me to take a more holistic look at the world that I currently live in, because I've had those experiences and bopped around, and really do a better job of helping to develop my team and our execution, and then also impacting my business. So my advice would be, have a variety of experiences, whether you're passionate about them or not. Don't stay too long where you're not.
Yeah.
But, if you have a discomfort in finance, go spend a year in finance, because you'll be stronger for it. But then don't be afraid to leave somewhere when you feel it's time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the time, man. All the knowledge you drop on the fine listeners. We appreciate that. And best of luck in this new venture, man. It should be an exciting time for you.
Yeah, we're excited. Look out for more from Peloton Commercial.
Nice. All right, Skip. Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Thanks so much to Skip Wilson for joining. Once again, the Director of Global Brand and Communication for Peloton Commercial. Great show, Will. I mean, great. Once again, another great guest by the great producer, Will Kelly here. Just because you wander does not mean you're lost. I'm going to take that one and use it in the future. I'm stealing that from Skip. I love it.
That's going to be on the David Brickley Monday Motivation soon.
But I'm telling you, write it down now. Number one, Peloton's going to buy out 24-hour fitness or something to that effect. And number two, Kaiser Permanente of the world, Scripps, what's it called? Health or what have you out here in San Diego. They're going to start asking for your Peloton numbers to give you better discounts on healthcare. That's my hot take here on 74.
I mean, just like he said, like everyone's parents had like a treadmill or whatever in their basement, and that thing just sits there.
They
now
made it
to
cool.
have that be such a exactly. They made it cool.
Again, the gamified element of, Will has worked out 3 times this week. I haven't worked out at all. I got to get my butt off the couch. And also the musical element. It's just the same reason people carry Starbucks cups around. The green straw is cooler than just the white cup that you used to get at the grocery store type thing. So there you have it. Skip Wilson, once again, joined us on the program. Thanks so much for him. Thanks to David Furker, producer Will, for all their help on the program.
Katie Corbett as well for hooking up the intro to
helping
Skip.
us out on the booking here. So you're becoming obsolete, Will. We got other people booking for you now. Like what?
I don't know about all that, but
all right,
helps appreciate it every now and
then. The
then.
Larry David Podcast, of course, episode number 74. Thanks for joining us. This has been yet another edition of the Business of Social Podcast. My name is David Brickley, and it's all been powered by STN Digital.